An Intercity every 10 minutes, large double-decker trains and a high punctuality. I welcome you to the Dutch Railways. Before I get into all the ins and outs of the fantastic train system, let's run through the history briefly to get context. On September 20, 1839, the first Dutch railway was built between Haarlem and Amsterdam. It was built according to Brunel's broad gauge. After this, more lines were built until they reached the German border. Here, the track was standard gauge, so it was decided to convert the entire existing network to standard gauge, what it still is. In 1908, the first Dutch electric line opened between Rotterdam and Scheveningen. This line had a voltage of 10 kV AC. In 1926, this was changed to the standard of the rest of the Dutch railways, which used 1500 volts DC. After the First World War, private railway companies started to cooperate better to prevent bankruptcy. The government also started to buy shares of the companies because the government did not want them to go bankrupt. In 1938, the Dutch Railways Company eventually emerged from these companies. In 1958, the last steam locomotive was in regular service. After that, everything was electrically or diesel powered. In the 1970s, the Dutch railways got their corporate identity, yellow and blue. This fresh look was supposed to help the trains become more popular again. It went very badly with the railways because of the rise of the car. The railways also began to receive an annual subsidy. In the following years, attempts were made to make the railways more efficient. For example, NX Cargo was sold to Railion, and a new company was founded for the maintenance and construction of the track and stations, ProRail. After that, around the turn of the century, a distinction was made between the main rail network and the other lines. The main rail network continued to be operated by the Dutch Railways, the company. The rest was outsourced to commercial companies. In this way, the connection on the important lines could be guaranteed and the system would become more efficient. And that brings us to the present. The main rail network is operated by the Dutch Railways, the company. The other 25% of the network is operated by commercial carriers. In terms of passengers, however, the Dutch Railways, the company, transports 90% of the passengers and the commercial companies only 10%. The public transport chip card is most commonly used for traveling. All kinds of subscriptions can be put on this card, and it can also be used for buses and shared bikes. There is also the option to buy paper tickets with QR codes. These can also be online on your phone. After that, you can use the tickets at the gate to open it. At stations without a gate, there are just posts, so don't forget to check in here. Because there are different transport companies, when switching between transport companies, it is necessary to check out at the first and check in at the other transport company. In-check posts are available at the station where this is possible. These are within the gate line. Unfortunately, often there aren't many posts, so those can get very busy when the train has arrived. The Dutch railways have two types of trains: the Intercity in yellow-blue and the Sprinter in blue-white. The Sprinters stop at every station and the Intercity trains only at the larger stations and Steenwijk. At commercial companies, this difference between the trains in terms of color is less clear, but often there are stop and express trains. On many routes there are 4 trains per hour, 2 Sprinters and 2 Intercity trains. However, these are more on busy routes, and this can go up to 6 Intercity trains per hour with a number of Sprinters in addition. The network has a total length of 3075 kilometers and a total length of tracks of 7097 kilometers. This big difference is due to the fact that 3/4 of the network is multi-track. On some stretches, such as between Amsterdam and Schiphol and Amsterdam and Utrecht, it is even quadruple track. Furthermore, 3/4 of the network has been electrified. Most of these overhead wires have a voltage of 1500 volts DC. This is a very low voltage compared to the 25,000 volt AC voltage that has become the European standard. These low voltages mean that it is difficult to run many trains at the same time. As a result, power has to be supplied in more places and there is more power loss. ProRail is looking into whether these voltages can be increased, but there are no concrete plans yet. Two special lines are the high-speed line and the Betuwe route. The high-speed line was opened in 2009 and connects Amsterdam with Rotterdam and the Belgian border. Trains run directly over this route to London, Paris and Brussels. The Betuwe is a railway line that is used for freight trains, and it connects... Hey, quiet! I'm recording a voiceover. As I was saying, connects the port of Rotterdam with Germany and the countries beyond. So there are no passenger trains here, with one exception. When there is construction work between Arnhem and Utrecht, the German ICE trains can be diverted over this line. Both lines use the 25,000 volt AC voltage, which is the European standard. Normal Dutch passenger trains can therefore not run on these lines. For this reason, there is a tracks locomotive and a number of carriages for the Intercity to Brussels. These locomotives can also run on the 1500 volts for the parts where the train uses the normal network. The high-speed trains can also run on the 1500 volts. Both lines deserve their own video that I will definitely make one day. A third special line is one that does not yet exist. However, there is much talk of a semi-high speed line to the north, with a maximum speed of 200 km an hour. This would then be called Lelylijn and would connect Groningen with Lelystad and Amsterdam. A connection can be made at Heerenveen for the travelers to Leeuwarden, and Drachten, a place of 45,000 inhabitants, can get a rail connection. The travel time between Groningen and Amsterdam South can be reduced from 120 minutes to 85 minutes with this line. It also makes the network more robust, because now the stretch of track between Zwolle and Meppel is the only railway line that connects the northern network with the rest. And I know from experience that that piece of track relatively often has malfunctions. On large parts of the system there is a maximum speed of 130 or 140 km an hour. Some parts are higher, some are lower. But in the Netherlands, with the exception of the trains on the high-speed line, trains never drive faster than 140 km an hour. However, this may change in the future with the arrival of the ICNG train that can travel up to 200 km an hour. On the high-speed line there is a maximum speed of 300 km an hour. There are still 219 unguarded level crossings in the Netherlands. However, the goal is to close all of these as quickly as possible. This can be done by securing them, closing them or building a tunnel or bridge. There are also about 1600 guarded level crossings. Unfortunately, fatal accidents still happen every year on these level crossings. In 2019, 9 people died and in 2020, 5. In addition, there are injured people and train delays. That's why the level crossings are often replaced by tunnels and bridges. One of the bigger disadvantages of train travel is often the distance between the station and your destination. Shared bicycles are available for rent at many stations. You can rent these for a few euros for a day. There are also cars for rent at some stations. And of course there are often buses, trams and metros that you can take. An aspect that the Dutch railways are less good with are the legendary leaves on the track problem in the autumn and winter conditions. In bad winter weather, such as snowfall, you can expect significant delays or even cancellations of trains. When it freezes hard, the switches often freeze, even if there is heating on them. Okay, this is all nice, but what is it like to travel by train in the Netherlands? And what rolling stock is used? Come with me on a tour through the Netherlands, where I will show you all the train types, as we will travel on different Dutch passenger trains. Our first